Shaquille O'Neal, a name synonymous with dominance, power, and sheer force on the basketball court. Standing at 7 feet 1 inch and weighing over 300 pounds, Shaq was a physical specimen unlike any other. His presence alone was enough to intimidate opponents, but it was his skill set that truly set him apart. A name that strikes fear into any opponent. The Big Diesel. His ability to control the paint, both offensively and defensively, was unparalleled. When Shaq was on the court, you knew you were in for a battle. His footwork, agility, and basketball IQ made him a nightmare for defenders. Dominating the paint like no other, Shaq's offensive arsenal was vast. From powerful dunks to soft hook shots, he had it all. His ability to read defenses and make quick decisions made him a constant threat, and when he got the ball in the low post, there was little anyone could do to stop him. He was unstoppable, a force of nature. His sheer strength allowed him to muscle through defenders with ease, but it wasn't just his physicality that made him great. Shaq had a unique blend of finesse and power, making him one of the most versatile big men the game has ever seen. But Shaq had a weakness: free throws. Despite his dominance in almost every aspect of the game, his Achilles heel was his inability to consistently make free throws. This glaring weakness was something opponents quickly took note of. Opponents exploited this with the infamous Hack-a-Shaq. This strategy involved intentionally fouling Shaq, forcing him to go to the free throw line where his shooting percentage was notoriously low. It was a tactic that many teams used to try and neutralize his impact on the game. It was effective, but man was it ugly. Watching Shaq struggle at the free throw line was painful for fans and frustrating for him, yet despite this flaw, his overall impact on the game remained immense. He continued to dominate, proving that even with a weakness, he was still one of the greatest. Imagine Shaq in his prime, a time when he was at the peak of his physical and mental abilities. He was virtually unstoppable, leading his teams to multiple championships and earning numerous accolades along the way. His prime years were a testament to his greatness and his ability to elevate those around him. Now add a deadly three-point shot. Imagine if Shaq had developed a consistent three-point shot. In today's game, where big men are expected to stretch the floor, this added dimension would have made him even more unguardable. Defenders would have had no answer for a player of his size and skill set who could also shoot from long range. Defenses wouldn't stand a chance. He'd be unguardable. The combination of his inside dominance and outside shooting would have made him a matchup nightmare. Coaches would have struggled to come up with strategies to contain him, and teams would have been left scrambling to find answers. A nightmare for any coach. Preparing for a game against Shaq was already a daunting task. Adding a three-point shot to his repertoire would have made it nearly impossible. Coaches would have had to rethink their entire defensive schemes, knowing that traditional methods wouldn't work. This is where things get interesting. The evolution of the game and the increasing emphasis on three-point shooting have changed the way big men play. If Shaq were playing today, he would likely have adapted and added this skill to his game, making him even more of a force to be reckoned with. How would the league adjust? Teams would have had to come up with new strategies and defensive schemes to try and contain this new breed of Shaq. The game would have evolved in response to his unique skill set, and we would have witnessed a new era of basketball. Could anyone contain this new breed of Shaq? Let's dive in. The thought of a Shaq with a three-point shot is tantalizing. It raises questions about how the game would have changed and how teams would have adapted. Let's explore this fascinating what-if scenario and dive into the potential impact of a three-point shooting Shaq on the league. Picture this: Shaq catching the ball beyond the arc. Swish, nothing but net. The crowd goes wild. This changes everything. Imagine the ripple effect on the game. Shaq, known for his dominance in the paint, now a threat from beyond the arc. Defenders would be left scratching their heads, unsure of how to contain this new weapon in his arsenal. The game would never be the same. Defenses would be forced to stretch, creating space for Shaq's thunderous drives. Double teams? No problem. With defenders spread thin, Shaq would have more room to maneuver, making his already unstoppable drives even more lethal. The paint would open up, allowing him to dominate in ways we've never seen before. Teams would have to rethink their entire defensive strategy. He'd simply step back and drain a three. His scoring would skyrocket. Imagine a player of Shaq's size and strength, now with the ability to shoot from long range. It would be a nightmare for any defense. Coaches would be scrambling to find ways to counter this new threat, but there would be no easy answers. Shaq's versatility would make him a matchup nightmare. His impact on the game, immeasurable. Fans would be treated to a whole new level of excitement as Shaq redefines what it means to be a dominant player. His ability to score from anywhere on the court would make every game a must-watch event. The energy in the arena would be electric, with fans on the edge of their seats waiting to see what Shaq would do next. We're talking about a whole new level of dominance. Shaq's presence on the court would be felt in every aspect of the game. His ability to shoot from long range would complement his already dominant inside game, making him virtually unstoppable. Opponents would be left in awe, struggling to find ways to contain him. Shaq would be rewriting the record books, setting new standards for what it means to be a dominant player. The NBA has never seen anything like it. Shaq's unique combination of size, strength, and skill would set him apart from any player in history. His ability to shoot from long range would add a new dimension to his game, making him a true all-around threat. The league would be buzzing with excitement, as fans and analysts alike marvel at Shaq's unprecedented dominance. This isn't just about points, it's about changing the game. Shaq's ability to score from anywhere on the court would force teams to adapt, leading to new strategies and innovations. The ripple effect would be felt throughout the league, as players and coaches alike strive to keep up with this new era of basketball. Shaq's influence would extend beyond the court, inspiring a new generation of players to expand their skill sets and push the boundaries of what's possible. It's about the fear factor. Knowing that Shaq could score from anywhere would demoralize opponents. The psychological impact of facing a player with Shaq's unique skill set would be immense. Teams would enter games with a sense of dread, knowing that there was no easy way to stop him. Shaq's presence on the court would be a constant reminder of his dominance, instilling fear in the hearts of his opponents. Knowing that Shaq could score from anywhere would demoralize opponents. They'd be left second-guessing their every move, unsure of how to defend against such a versatile player. The mental toll of facing Shaq would be just as significant as the physical challenge. Opponents would be left feeling helpless, as Shaq continues to dominate in ways they never thought possible. The psychological impact alone would be huge. Shaq's confidence and swagger would be on full display as he takes his game to new heights. Opponents would be left frustrated and demoralized, unable to find a way to stop him. Shaq's dominance would extend beyond the physical as he gets inside the heads of his opponents, leaving them questioning their abilities and strategies. This is a whole new ballgame, and Shaq is leading the charge. So, how do you guard this new Shaq? Do you put a smaller, quicker player on him to contest the three? Or do you stick with a traditional center and hope he misses from deep? It's a lose-lose situation. Coaches would tear their hair out, game plans would be thrown out the window, the league would be in chaos. Imagine the adjustments teams would have to make. Zone defenses, maybe. Double teams? Definitely. But would it even matter? Shaq with a three-point shot is a matchup nightmare. Now let's talk numbers. Shaq already put up monster stats: 23.7 points, 10.9 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks per game. Add a consistent three-point shot, and those numbers would be even more ridiculous. We're talking about averaging 30-plus points easily. He'd be in the conversation for the all-time scoring record, surpassing legends like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Wilt Chamberlain. His impact goes beyond scoring. He'd be racking up assists, drawing double and triple teams. Shaq would be a walking triple-double threat. Section 5. The ultimate cheat code, dominance redefined. With a reliable three-pointer, would Shaq be the ultimate cheat code? Some might say yes, he'd be virtually unstoppable, a one-man wrecking crew. We've seen dominant players before, but this would be different. Shaq's combination of size, strength, and shooting would be unprecedented. He would redefine what it means to be a dominant center in the NBA. Opposing teams would be left scratching their heads, wondering how to compete. The league would never be the same. Section 6. The Hack-a-Shaq Dilemma, a thing of the past. Remember the Hack-a-Shaq strategy? It was a tactic used by opposing teams to intentionally foul Shaquille O'Neal, forcing him to shoot free throws, which was considered his Achilles heel. The idea was simple: exploit Shaq's poor free throw shooting to gain an advantage. Coaches would instruct their players to foul him, especially in critical moments of the game, hoping he would miss those crucial shots. Well, with a three-point shot, that goes out the window. Imagine if Shaq had developed a reliable three-point shot. Opponents would have to rethink their entire defensive strategy. No longer could they rely on fouling him to gain an edge. Instead, they would have to respect his shooting ability from beyond the arc, spreading their defense thinner and creating more opportunities for Shaq and his teammates. Opponents wouldn't dare foul him, knowing he could easily drain free throws. If Shaq had become a consistent free throw shooter, the Hack-a-Shaq strategy would have been rendered useless. Teams would be forced to play him straight up, without the safety net of sending him to the line. This would have made Shaq an even more formidable force on the court, as defenders would have to guard him more cautiously, reducing their chances of stopping him. This would force teams to defend him straight up, which, as we've established, would be a nightmare. Shaq's sheer size, strength and skill made him a dominant presence in the paint. Without the option to foul him, defenders would have to rely on their physical abilities and defensive schemes to contain him, which was no easy task. Double-teaming him would leave other players open, creating more scoring opportunities for his team. The Hack-a-Shaq would become a relic of the past, a distant memory. The strategy that once seemed like a viable solution to stopping Shaq would be nothing more than a footnote in basketball history. Coaches and players would look back and remember the days when fouling Shaq was a common practice, but it would no longer be relevant in the modern game. Shaq would be free to dominate without the constant fouling, making him even more dangerous. With the freedom to play his game without the fear of being sent to the free throw line, Shaq's offensive prowess would be unleashed. He could focus on what he did best, scoring in the paint, grabbing rebounds and leading his team to victory. His opponents would have to find new ways to stop him, but none would be as effective as the Hack-a-Shaq. It's a scary thought for anyone who had to face him. The idea of a Shaquille O'Neal who couldn't be stopped by fouling is enough to send shivers down the spine of any defender. His dominance on the court would be even more pronounced, and his legacy as one of the greatest players in NBA history would be further cemented. The Hack-a-Shaq strategy may be a thing of the past, but Shaq's impact on the game will be remembered forever. Section 7. The NBA landscape, a paradigm shift. Shaq's three-point shooting wouldn't just impact his own game, it would change the entire NBA landscape. Big men would be expected to shoot from deep, revolutionizing the center position. We've already seen a shift towards versatile big men, but Shaq's dominance would accelerate this trend. The days of the back-to-the-basket center would be over. The league would be filled with athletic, sharp-shooting giants, forever changing the way the game is played. Section 8. Shaq's legacy, cementing his place in history. Shaq's legacy is already secure as one of the most dominant players ever. But with a three-point shot, his place in history would be even more untouchable. We'd be talking about him in the same breath as Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. His impact on the game would be immeasurable, influencing generations of players to come. Shaq's already larger-than-life persona would reach new heights, solidifying his status as a true icon of the game. Section 9. The unanswered question, could anyone stop him? So, the question remains, could anyone stop a three-point shooting Shaquille O'Neal? It's a question that will be debated for years to come. Some might say no, that he would be simply unstoppable. Others might point to potential weaknesses, ways to exploit his game. But one thing is certain, Shaq with a three-point shot would be a sight to behold, a force unlike anything the NBA has ever seen. What do you think? Could anyone stop him?